Tommy Reynolds has his gun out. He's pointing the gun, and all of a sudden, I see this woman.
They say it's on every single station. They're saying that Daddy died.
He said there was an accident and your father is no longer with us.
In real life, I'm not like that.
And the Mario test was disgusting.
One night I jumped out of a car doing 60 miles an hour because I was addicted.
Salute, Mob Tube. Salute, Mob Tube. Happy Halloween, everybody. Now let's see who we got in here. Ray the Road Dog, Pretty Monita, New York Queen, nice to see you. Bobby Berberian, Dr. Vinny Boombots, RPMG, Lexi. We got Carlos, Carol Mahale. Who else we got? TT the Norwegian, Yankees for Life, Oliver Sutton, Cuban B, Mr. Kens. All right, guys. So you could see by the title what this show is about. Behind me is a picture from the movie Paid in Full. Paid in Full is one of my favorite movies of all time. It's the story of Alpo Martinez, Rich Porter, and AZ Faison. All three of them were kind of a crew of legendary drug dealers in Harlem, New York. And the movie about them was fantastic. Cameron played Alpo Martinez. Mekhi Pfeiffer played Rich Porter. And Wood Harris played AZ Faison. Now, in the movie, they went by Ace, Mitch, and Rico. Rico being the Alpo character. Now, some of you already know about these guys. Some of you probably don't. And usually this show is about Italian gangsters, mafia members. But this story proves that you don't have to be in the mafia to be a gangster. And every now and then, once in a blue moon, an informant gets killed for testifying against his friends. Or simply ratting on his friends. So I'm going to get started in a minute talking about some of this. I'll wait till we get some more people in here. Canoville 69. See No Evil. That's what it is. I would have never figured that out. Happy Halloween, and thank you for clearing that up. Chickens always come home to roost. Today, fuck Alpo. Yeah, well, I know nothing of black Latino street gangs. Well, these guys, Lexi, you should look into. If you get a chance today, or whenever you get a chance, you should watch the movie Paid in Full. It's an excellent movie, way underrated, but it's got it's a cult classic basically. And yeah, I finally got it. And it tells an amazing story about these three guys who were really legendary drug dealers. I mean, these guys were making tons of money in the street at a very young age. Like I said, they were legends in Harlem. Everybody knew who they were. It reminds you almost of a crew like the Bath Avenue crew or something like that, because these guys were killers and they had a very sad ending to their story. Hispanic or white? Who are you asking about? Or H or white? Oh, H or white. Well, it goes like this, basically. Alpo Alpo Martinez started very young, 13, 14 years old. He was extremely determined and driven. He wanted to make every last dollar possible, and he would hit the block, 5, 6 a.m. He'd be the first one on the block, making sure he catches every dollar, every fiend for heroin, coke, whatever. And he was making a lot of money at a young age. And he was already, well known and kind of famous in his neighborhood. And, it was that drive and stuff that wound up getting him to the point where he later wound up. But once the crack epidemic started, that's when everything changed. Heroin had nothing on crack, as you guys know, in New York in the 80s. And he was making a fortune. They had a place at one point called the Jukebox. I forget exactly what street it was on. I want to say 145th. I'm not sure. But they would have lines around the block. They were selling, a half a gram of crack for $10. That's what they were giving people. Mm-hmm. They had the bottles. Oh, okay. All right. They had the bottles, I forget what color tops, but they were selling, hang on 1 second. Getting texts while I'm live. And they were selling, like I said, you're getting, which is basically now, half a gram is like $50. Back then it was about the same. But they were selling that for $10. Now in New York, it was a little cheaper, of course, for a half a gram, but they were the only guys out there selling it that cheap. And they would have a line around the block selling, they were going through 2-3 keys a day of crack, just selling these bottles. You know what I mean? And they were making a fortune. They were making a ton of money. Let me see. Anthony Salerno, they thought he was black. He was Spanish. He overheard where they stashed it and robbed them. Yeah, exactly. He was a very dark-skinned Puerto Rican guy. Other Puerto Ricans and Hispanics thought he was black. So wherever they would be, they would hear the Spanish drug dealers talking about where their stashes were at, whatever, and he would just be standing back listening. And they thought he was black. They had no idea he could speak Spanish, but he could. He wasn't black, amateur historian. Alpo Martinez was not black. Afro-Latino, no. That's another thing. I'm going to get to Rich Porter and all that. So, they had this crew. Alpo was known for all kinds of shit. He was reckless. He was wild. He would drive his motorcycle around Harlem, doing wheelies and shit, speeding. He was crazy. You know what I mean? And he was known for things like that. There's a story about one time he's driving his motorcycle, right? He sees his Connect. He pulls over. He says to the dude, "Hey, where's the where's the shit? You know what I mean? Where's my shit? I got the money, whatever, blah, blah, blah." And the dude's like, "Yeah, he'll get up with you later." He's like, "Nah, I want it now." Hands the dude $15,000. He gets a key, looks at it. All right, cool. Puts it in his pants, gets back on his motorcycle, starts doing a wheelie down First Avenue. And the key of coke falls out of his pants, hits the street, breaks open. He puts the bike down, turns around, throws it up on the kickstand, gets down in the street and starts trying to pick up anything he can salvage from the brick that he just dropped. So he was, he was known for shit like that. He would, he made a place called Dapper Dan kind of famous. He would go to Dapper Dan in Harlem and get his clothes custom made. And all kinds of people started going to Dapper Dan. Mike Tyson, rappers, everybody. What years did this take place? I think it went through. I don't want to fuck anything up. I don't have everything down to an exact fact, but I forget. I'm gonna find out exactly when it all ended. I know it started for Alpo. You know, he started 78, 79 when he was 13, 14 years old. He was already out in the street hustling, making a lot of fucking money. Yeah, the Rich Porter AZ Alpo thing together, that kind of started in the 80s with the crack epidemic. It might have been 91 TT, the Norwegian, yeah. Through 91, Bay 8th, yeah. So, Alpo, isn't that puppy food? It is. um, and in the movie, you know, Paid in Full, he's known as Rico. But, let me see. Looking at some comments. Um, yeah, so pretty much through that period of time, at least Alpo's story started in 78, 79, you know, when he was, at least when he started selling drugs. And I think they're right. I think it went through around 91. Um, let's see here. I'll make sure I don't miss anything. Yeah, he was you know, he was very flashy and flamboyant. He was known for that. Like I said, he had his clothes custom made. They said when, you know, he was the type of dude at one point, him and Rich Porter, um, you know, they would buy cars and they would buy clothes and jewelry to match the cars. I mean, they had crazy money. It was insane, you know, hundreds of thousands of dollars they were making easily just from the spot, the jukebox, just from that spot alone. And they had shit going on, you know what I mean? They had the right connect, they were getting the right prices, and they were able to outprice people. They were able to sell their shit cheaper, and they blew up like that. If you watch the movie Paid in Full, it explains a lot of it. It's not 100% accurate in the movie, but it's pretty fucking close. And like I said, you know, it ended badly. Of course, these stories always do. At one point, um, AZ started to step back a little bit because he knew it was getting hot. Um, Mitch Porter and Alpo were best friends, and it came down to Alpo eventually killing Rich Porter, his best friend. Now, in the movie, it says, yeah, 90% accurate, I'd say, the movie. In the movie, it's over some bricks, some keys he killed him for. When you hear Alpo Martinez himself tell the story, it's a little different. He doesn't say that. I might get in trouble for this, but I'm going to give you an example of maybe I shouldn't do this. Yeah, let me think about it for a minute. I think he did, AZ. I think he did do an interview with Vlad. There's a lot of stuff you could find. There's a documentary called Game Over. I think there's Game Over Part 2. You know, there's the story of AZ Faison. There's the story of all of them. But you could find a lot of AZ Faison interviews. And now, if you go on YouTube, you could find Alpo Martinez just from the last few years talking. He had a documentary and all that. What do you mean, Stephen Bailey? I'm not sure, Cali Connect, where it was coming from exactly. Preacher was a scary dude. So he wound up killing Rich Porter eventually, and you know he went to DC. Alpo did, and decided to expand. You know, expand his operation, and same type of thing. He was getting it cheaper. He was able to sell it cheaper there. They said he didn't move in right away, like you know he's trying to take over. Like he did it, you know, smoothly because he's from out of town. Could be a dangerous situation. But he started taking over in DC. And there was a guy named Wayne Silk Perry. Uh, Wayne Silk Perry was a notorious gangster on the streets of DC, possibly one of the most dangerous men to ever walk the streets of DC. And he basically became like a bodyguard slash enforcer slash hitman for Alpo Martinez. And they killed a lot of people. There's a story of them killing a kid on a basketball court in broad daylight during a game with a crowd around. And, it was nothing for them to blow somebody's head off. And Wayne Silk Perry was a very dangerous dude. He got killed, Mario Barrera. He got killed at about 3 a.m. this morning. So Halloween. It was the corner of 147th Street near Frederick Douglass Boulevard. He got killed in a drive-by. Now I'm going to get to a little bit more of his story, and then I'll talk about that, which is what I really want to get to in this case. So anyway, eventually, long story short, AZ wound up getting caught. I'm sorry, Alpo wound up getting caught. And he kind of knew, he was facing the death penalty for murders, for drug conspiracies, for everything. And he was facing the death penalty. And they say he always kind of knew that he had, that's another thing, Rich Porter, another sad part of the story. Rich Porter's brother, at one point, little brother, I think he was maybe 12 years old. I could have that wrong, guys. I don't have everything written down or anything. I'm going off of my memory here. I got a couple of things written, but they kidnapped, some people kidnapped Rich Porter's little brother and killed him as like a revenge type of thing. Hold on, let me see something. Give me a second, guys. So, yeah, so the little boy was killed. Rich Porter was killed. Alpo eventually gets caught. He's facing the death penalty, and he always had it in his back pocket. Like I've talked about, some of these guys, they always planned that when they get caught, they'd have a get out of jail free card, and they would just rat on somebody. So he ratted on Wayne Silk Perry. He eventually wound up getting 35 years for 14 murders, Alpo Martinez. He did 24 years of that, and he was released in 2015. He was in ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado, a notorious prison you've heard me talking about before. People like Gas Pipe, Sammy the Bull, some of the 9/11 guys, people like that were in there. It's where they put the worst of the worst. So he did 24 years, got released in 2015. I believe he was supposed to be in witness protection, but as we can see, he decided, like a lot of these guys do, that they can go back to their neighborhood. Now, when Alpo got caught, the one thing he said is, I'm not ratting on anybody from Harlem. When I come home, I'm still going to be the king. Now, apparently he believed that because he went back. Thank you, Miss Can't Be Wrong. I could have done better, but I really wanted to get this out today. Carlos Muniz, my buddy, he woke me up with a text today that said that Alpo got killed. I shot up, and I've been working on this as much as I could ever since. I uploaded some pictures I want to pull up so everybody knows what he looked like. This was Alpo Martinez. You could see the jewelry, the clothes. He would walk around in a Louis Vuitton trench coat, shit like that, at a very young age. This is all three of them. AZ Faison is the one with the bucket hat on. Alpo is in the middle, and on the bottom right here, that's Rich Porter. So that was them together. This is the cover of the movie, Paid in Full. That's Cameron playing Alpo. Mekhi Phifer in the middle is in the movie. He's Mitch Porter. Alpo is Rico, and then on the right here, Wood Harris plays Ace, but it's he's obviously playing AZ Faison. So there's some pictures for you guys. But yeah, so that's what happened. 24 years in prison. He gets out. Like he said, he thinks he's still going to be the king of Harlem. And in a lot of ways, listen, to this day, like a lot of rats are revered and still looked at as legends and looked up to. And to some other people, they're hated and despised. A lot of people still looked up to him. I already heard some channels this morning talking about he was a hero in Harlem and he was a legend and he'll always go down as a good dude and this and that. Everybody sees it differently, but he thought he could drop out of witness protection, go hang out in Harlem. And at 3 a.m. this morning, he was proven wrong when he was killed in a drive-by shooting. So that's the end of his story. What age was he when he died? 55. He died this morning at 55 years old. I'm going to drop a link for somebody who's going to join me and talk about this. So it made me think a little bit. It's funny. You got this organization like the Mafia, okay, Cosa Nostra. They have all these rats walking the street every day, back in the same neighborhood. Nothing happens. Got people like Chris Pacello in Miami, celebrity, buys a $3 million house. His house is in the newspaper, so people know where he lives. There's he's seen by other mob guys at fucking basketball games. He dates famous women, all this shit. Not a thing. Then you got something like this in the hood. This guy didn't make it long. Once he started going back to Harlem, he got killed pretty quickly. I'll drop it again. Okay, I'm teaching somebody something new here. Give me a second. I gotta help get my guest on. Let me see. This is a first time for him. So Nicky Barnes never came back to Harlem, but Alpo thought he could. I will never understand it. Well, listen, it's indicative of, it's the way he lived his life. Alpo was a reckless, fucking crazy dude, man, who did wild shit and took chances every minute of his fucking life. So I guess he thought, he could do it, and he thought he was protected. He thought he was invincible. And like I said, he was proven wrong this morning. So this is big news because, like I said, one thing this story proves is that you don't have to be Italian. You don't have to be in the mafia to be a gangster. There is guys that come out of the hoods, the ghettos, all that shit across America that were real gangsters and killers. And sometimes, those types of guys are more dangerous than some of the more organized crime groups we have. What the fuck did I do? Hold on. My bad, bro. I'm redoing it. The fuck did I do? There we go. Got it. I messed up. That's true too, TT, the Norwegian. That's the thing about organized crime. Yeah, they have limits and rules. And obviously, an organization like the mafia is more concerned with not bringing heat on themselves by killing an informant or a rat. It'll cause tons of fucking problems. The cops, the feds will never stop until they find the guy who did it. I know. But you see what my point is. I mean, maybe it's more dangerous when the people just don't give a fuck and they're determined to kill you. And they're not worried about rules or parameters or any of that. Let's see. I'll give him a second to get ready. Black Handprint Mafia.
How you going, bro?
Good, man. It's good to see you. I'm glad to finally have you on.
I appreciate it. Yo, this story, that's one of my films too, man. I love that movie. So when I saw that, I couldn't believe it. So I'm just curious though. Let me ask you. To me, an informant is an informant. It's all the same record. I mean, people all kind of feel the same about it, no matter what. But when you first saw this, like, what popped in your head?
When I first saw it this morning?
Yeah.
I'll tell you the truth. I wasn't that surprised. You know what I mean? Because like we were just talking about, it's different. Listen, let's face it. It's different when you're a famous rat and you go back to a place like Harlem. I just think you're simply more at risk. You know what I mean? Than when you were a member of an organized crime group. And like somebody just said, they go by rules and guidelines and shit, and they're not as quick to kill people anymore.
Yeah. He was in a nightclub, they said, like 3:30 in the morning in Harlem.
I know, bro.
And that's where all this stuff, all the people he told on, everything, it was all there. But I get a lot of people on my channel in comments and stuff who talk about, informants and why they don't really like there's too many cameras around and people don't really care no more. It's easier to just let them go. But I always say there's a lot of old school guys still around who live by that code. I don't live by it. It's not my it's not my life. But if you really study former gangsters, Cosa Nostra guys, any street guys, street guys in general, I don't care if you're in the mob or you're a black street gang or a Mexican or the Russians or whatever, if you are a street guy, you kind of live by similar principles. And people who come up in that life, that start from kids and they grow up in it, that life means something to them that I can't understand it, but to them, it really means something. And when you walk around and you just show your face, it's one thing if you do like what Joe Massino did, just goes into and hiding, just never comes back out. That's one thing. But when you get on camera, and that's what Alpo was doing. I saw videos of him riding his motorcycle around Harlem. He's driving people. He's riding in his car back to where he buried the body, I believe. And he was doing things that's almost like you're taunting people now, and you get that, and you get people's blood boiling. And when I saw this, I mean, as a guy who loved that film, I thought, to me, this has to put any public informant on notice to make them second guess, like what they do. A lot of people say, I heard, and I'm not trying to cause any controversy, but I watched this documentary before where John A. Light was saying, I live in New York and I drive a convertible. You got 5 families still operating there. Yeah. And while there's a lot of new guys who might live by a different way of life, there's old school guys still around who you're taunting them. And I don't know, but my guess would be this killing would make everybody think. Anybody who was a former informant, they're all sitting there thinking, is this smart what I'm doing?
Listen, I'm glad you said that, because that is, like I said, I wasn't necessarily surprised he got killed. But there is I don't know, I don't want to say it the wrong way, but the first thing that came to my mind is like what you said, holy shit, one of them finally got killed. Honestly, like that's what I was thinking, because listen, I'm sure you as well as me, we're all shocked sometimes at how these guys can just walk around and live their lives, after doing what they did. And so it is almost I don't know, like I said, I don't want to use the wrong words, but it's almost sort of gratifying. I'm not gonna lie.
It to me, this one like really made me think, because we all look back on this old world and we think it doesn't exist no more. We think that, so we watch these movies and stuff and we think, oh man, back then, like I was just studying, I was looking at, I want to say I don't know if it was OC Shorts or someone, but I was watching someone's page where they were recently saying that I heard this Neil Delacroix quote where he said, there's no respect no more. There's people that, a long time ago, you would have found yourself in a hole somewhere for doing, for being as disrespectful as you're being. And, we look back a lot of times on this life and we go, man, it's not like that no more. But this here, it just made my mind start spinning, bro, and thinking to myself, like, man, like, because all my research, these guys used to have to literally run. They couldn't talk to their family, their friends. When an informant, ran off, they had to hide forever. They couldn't see nobody. This new world where they just go right back to their same neighborhood. They have to be thinking right now, I think. To me, everybody's thinking, wow, if this can happen, then all of them, have to be thinking the same thing.
Yeah, they have to. It like you said, it puts them on notice, because that's another thing, I thought about right after this. Like I said, my first thought was kind of like, wow, they finally got one.
Yeah.
So it does. It has to make them all think twice now.
Mm-hmm.
Here's a question for you. Do you think, how do you think this makes an organization as big as, American Cosa Nostra? How do you think this makes them look when they have so many walking the streets every day? Yet these guys in Harlem, who are just regular street guys, they're not part of any organized crime group, can take one out like that.
And that was, yo, bro, that's the first thing that crossed my mind. I swear to God. My first thought was, in my recent video I just did yesterday, I put in a video on, I talked about how there was an incident in Philadelphia where I believe, I don't have the research in front of me, but I believe that the black gangs sold fake drugs to the people who were in the Philadelphia family. And I believe they were picked up on wiretap talking, saying, listen, we have to retaliate, because if we don't, we're going to lose our reputation. And but nothing ever happened. I believe even the capo, Dominic Grandi, his house, like they, burglarized his house, smashed all of his windows, and nothing ever happened, and the truth of the matter is today, a lot of the fear factor in Cosa Nostra has subsided. What happened in the 70s and 80s, you don't see it happening no more. So the names, when you hear like mob guys today, any fear that's attached to it is because of activities that happen. So if you have a 2021 Gambino guy, let's say, any fear attached to him, it's not because of anything happening so much in the 20s, or in the 2000s, or even so much in the 90s. It's all the stuff you've seen happening in the 80s and stuff like that. But when you got their guys walking around publicly, talking, doing whatever they want to do, you're sending a message. Now, I'm not taking a position. I'm a regular guy. I live a straight edge life, but I'm just speaking as an analyst, as a researcher. If you want your guys in your organization to have a fear of telling, they have to have a fear of consequence. So if you're a made guy in any of the 5 families, you have to fear what will happen to you and your family if you try to go against your capo, you go against the family. They don't have that fear no more. Now it's an alternative plan. I think a lot of these guys have it planned before they get caught. Well, if I get caught, I'll just, go write a book and start a YouTube page and make even more money.
Yeah. Well, it's like I said before, it's the fear of the government just superseded the fear of the guys in the street. Like these guys, they're more scared now of the government of going to prison than they are of the guys in the street. And the reason I used the word gratifying, somebody asked, I'm not happy to see anybody die. That's not what I'm saying.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, what I'm saying is there's not one of us out there, I don't think, especially if you were any kind of street guy at any point, that hasn't been sitting around for fucking years, if not decades, saying, when are they going to are they going to finally make one of these motherfuckers pay? Like, when is it going to get to the point where at least they make an example out of somebody? Because, like you said, what is the motivation now to just go do your time? There is none. It's, look, like we've been taught that all these guys are being taught that are still in the street that, listen, if I get caught, not only will I get out of it, maybe just serve a couple of years, but then I can go become a YouTube star or be in documentaries and be a celebrity. So I don't know, man. It's almost that's the only reason I use the word gratifying, is because I think a lot of people have been waiting a long time to see somebody finally get paid back for what they did.
What's a little different is how neighborhoods have changed a lot. So, if you go back into like the Harlem area of where Alpo comes out of, a lot of people who were there when Alpo was there are still there.
Yeah.
And that's what's a lot different than what happened in some of the Italian neighborhoods. If you go back to Mulberry Street now, it's a tourist attraction. So it's a different, it's a different reality in the neighborhoods today, where Alpo walking around in Harlem, he's walking right among the beast. He's walking right among the people that knew him, that were around him, that hate him. And so, I mean, you probably have a lot of people that just said, this isn't happening. It's okay. You're out of jail. Fine. You did what you did, but you're going to come back here and you're going to walk among us and act like it's okay. And there's this new world now, man, where, again, I don't have a dog in the race. I just speak as an analyst. And, when informants now can go back and keep their friends. They rat and tell on people, and they just go right back home, walk right up and down their same neighborhoods, keep their same friends. Their friends are happy to be around them because they're more famous now. It's a different thing. It's a really different thing. And Cosa Nostra is going to have trouble until they figure out what they're going to do with the informants. Because how do you make a person scared to tell when there's no repercussion for telling? Nothing happens to these guys. I mean, a lot of these guys stay right where they were working at when it all happened. It's a different reality. It's a shame what happened, but he put himself in a bad situation. Why would you even go back there for? It doesn't make any sense to me.
Yeah, I know. It's like you said. See, Harlem, a lot of a lot of people are still there, and for generations, a lot of the families will stay there. I was in Bensonhurst on Friday, and it's not recognizable to what it was in the 80s and 90s. You know what I mean? Like, because I was there then. It changed. A lot of the people left. They moved to Staten Island. They moved to Florida. They moved away. A lot of the Italian neighborhoods are changed. So you're absolutely right. It's not like you're walking around in a mob haven anymore necessarily.
Exactly.
And a lot of people, like I said, they're just more they're more fearful of the government than they are, angry about the people that are still walking the streets that betrayed them.
Exactly.
But I don't know, man. I think this is big news today. That's why I wanted to do a show right away, because it's shocking. And like you said, another thing is, even if, you don't want to, they're not killing people like that. Where does it get to the point when they say, okay, you're at least not coming back here? If you're
exactly.
And all that shit, you might not get killed, but you're going to be banished. You better move to Idaho somewhere.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like, we never want to see you again. And if we do, then it'll be different. But it's changed now. It blows my mind. Like you said, how somebody like A-Light, he has no problem driving around Howard Beach, anywhere with his top down, and Times Square. I saw videos of him smoking a cigar with a big smile on his face. Listen, when you thumb your noses at people like that, I can't feel bad for you if you get killed. I just can't have sympathy.
No, you're bringing it on yourself at that point. That's the way I look at it. Another guy this happened to. There was a guy who had associations with the Philadelphia family, with Joey Merlino. He was with a rap group called Ram Squad. He got killed. You know what I'm talking? Yes, Tommy Hill. He was doing the same thing. Now, he left with all his money. He had millions of dollars. I think he said, I saw an interview when he said he had $4 million tucked away. I think he moved to Atlanta or something, or a different state. He had a nice home. Everything was going well. He was setting up a good business. And then he comes back to Philadelphia. You know, you're walking among these people who, that's the thing that's different with what happened in Black communities and the Italian communities. The Black communities are still largely segregated, still very largely what they were in the 80s, you know, and 90s and stuff like that. So that's why those guys go back home, because that's everyone who they know, and they want to go back home and, you know, and act like everything's all good. That's where their friends and their family all live at, so they have to go back there. My understanding, you would know better than I would, but my understanding is like Bensonhurst and these like these certain areas where it used to be like very Italian populated places, those communities kind of broke up and they kind of moved out to different areas and stuff like that. So A-Light can go back to there now because all the people who used to be there at that time, they're not there no more. So you're now walking among, you know, when I was in John Gotti's old social club a few months back, the woman, it's a shoe store now, and I think the woman's Greek. It's a Greek woman who owns it, I believe. A lot of the business.
It's so funny you said that. We were there like 6 months ago. We took pictures of the floor and all that. Cause it was,
so did I.
But yeah, I saw the woman was real. She wasn't happy at the fact that I was there, but for the reason I was there for. And yeah, but yeah, it's different.
That's what she said to me. When I walked in, I said, "Do you know what this place is?" She said, she like rolled her eyes, said, "Yes, everyone comes in here to talk about that, but they don't want to buy a pair of shoes." Like, she said that to me. But you know what's interesting? She told me, I didn't buy anything, but I was just there doing research, and I gave her, just handed her like $20 just to take a picture of me inside of there. But she said people come inside there and they kiss the floor and walk out. She said that to this day, people walk inside and kiss the floor of the Ravenite, just kiss and walk out. And she said that sometimes, if you notice when you walk in there, it's like the floor is kind of broken up, the tiles on the floor. She told me that people will break top pieces of the tile off the floor, hand her $100 bill, and say, "Hey, I'm sorry to break your floor, but you know, here's $100. I just want to keep a piece of the tile." You know, but that's what that neighborhood was. When Coppola, Francis Coppola, the director of The Godfather, he was trying to film in that area in Little Italy, and literally the whole area was controlled by, it was all, you couldn't even get a meal in that area without the mob's approval, because all the businesses who were even not affiliated with the mob, they were loyal to them. The mob helped them with business loans, with suppliers, with a way to find cheaper products. You know, if they had any financial problems, the mob would help them pay their rent or their mortgage that month. If they had something where, you know, some old lady in the neighborhood didn't have any and she couldn't buy groceries, she could walk into the stores and get whatever she wanted for free. Just walk in, fill her bag up, and walk out. And the mob would tell them, "Put it on our tab." Like so the mob had complete control over that neighborhood. So what Joe Colombo was saying is, listen, you're going to do what I say, or you're not going to get your film made. So Coppola just tried to just get the film made regardless. Just pull up. I believe he parked his van with all his equipment outside on Mulberry Street and went inside to eat, and he came back out and his truck was gone. And so like the mob was so that's how the neighborhoods, the old Italian neighborhoods used to be. They were controlled. So A-Light might feel comfortable walking through Mulberry Street now, Mott Street now, because there's nobody there no more. It's a tourist attraction. But it's different. A-Light or someone like that, and I'm not saying A-Light to put him down, I'm just using him because he's a popular informant. If A-Light going back to Mulberry Street isn't the same as Alpo going back to Harlem. Harlem's still very controlled by those people who were there doing Alpo.
Yeah, it's like I said, like the generations, you know, they stay there. Different generations of families that have been there forever. But yeah, a story real quick about the Ravenite. A guy from China, I believe it was, gave her $5,000 for one of those little tiles.
Oh, so you heard about that too?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, we took pictures of the floor. I said to the woman, "Is this the place?" She said, "Yeah, this is the place." I'm like, all right. But But no, you're right, because they did control everything. Like a lot of the things, like some people don't know about the mob, how they got protection money and how they did different things. When they control the unions, like the truckers' unions, they could go to a restaurant and say, listen, you're going to pay us X amount of dollars a week, or we'll just stop your deliveries.
Exactly.
Because they could, you know what I mean? They could have the truckers go on strike, whatever. They could just stop an individual driver from delivering supplies and stuff to a restaurant. They could shut that restaurant down without ever using a gun, any kind of method of violence whatsoever. So they absolutely controlled everything back then. And Little Italy, even 20 years ago was the last time I was there. My daughter was a baby, and it was right after 9/11. Even then, it was already kind of a tourist trap. But we went back, like I said, about 6 months ago, and I couldn't even believe how much different it was from even 20 years ago. I said to my wife, because I see, when I took my wife to New York, I'm like, I'm going to show you Bensonhurst. I'm going to show you Little Italy. I'm going to show you what these places are like. And I hadn't been there in a while myself. So I was like, wow, there's nothing to show you at this point. Like, I don't even know. And we went into a bakery. And I was talking to a woman in the bakery that ran the place. And I said, my grandmother is from Bay Ridge Parkway. My aunt and uncle are from 16th Avenue and 86th Street. And I spent a lot of my childhood, teenage years, younger adult years here. I said, it's completely different. And she said, look, everybody left. It's exactly what she said. You know what I mean?
So, you're exactly right. And you know what? See, a lot of people don't understand is how they develop their control. So I talked about this before, but the Sicilians weren't treated well by anybody but each other. Even though they had some problems like within their own community, their biggest problems were outside of their community. So they had this staunch loyalty to each other. They didn't see the NYPD as the police. They saw the neighborhood capo as the police and his soldiers. That was the police department. If someone came in bothering you, you called the neighborhood capo, and he sent someone over to talk to you to see what happened. The NYPD was they were like the criminals in that community. If you saw a cop drive by, you were like, it was like, what's like, call the cops. The cops were the neighborhood, it's the neighborhood capo. And so the Italian community was so strong back then because it wasn't just Cosa Nostra, it was the surrounding area was all Italian. So so both were protecting each other in many ways. Cosa Nostra was protecting the common man, and the common man was protecting Cosa Nostra. So like, again, I said this thing on my channel when I talked about how if A-Light, and again, I don't mean to keep bringing up A-Light, but because he took this picture under the banner in Little Italy, which to me is like, it's like putting your middle finger up to the Italian community. I mean to Cosa Nostra. But if he would have done that in the 70s or 80s, literally, this is not an exaggeration, someone could have walked out, shot him in the head. His body would have leaked out on the floor, and the person who shot him wouldn't have had to run. He could have walked back inside, finished his meal, and nobody in the neighborhood would have even called the cops. That's how strong that community used to be. His body would have bled out for days. Kids would have skipped over that thing and kept on going to school, and no one would have cared. That's how strong it used to be. I mean, it's just a different reality today because they're not so interconnected the way they used to be.
Yeah, that's a prime example of what the phrase you used, common man protecting Cosa Nostra. That's how it was. The regular guys, the civilians, the women, children, whatever it was, they just knew. We didn't see anything, we didn't hear anything. You know what I mean? And that's how they would also Cosa Nostra could operate without fear of somebody in their own neighborhood running and telling on them. Mob Talk Radio says the reason why you don't see mob hits is because the commission passed a moratorium on murder years ago. It's only in New York. I understand that, Mob Talk Radio, but I think the question that we're both asking is, if I understand that's the case, but with that being the case, how do you solve the problem of people becoming informants, ratting, testifying so easily if they know, listen, They won't even kill us anymore. It's against the rules. We have nothing to worry about. So that's the question I've been looking for an answer to. They have a serious problem, and the way things are going, that problem is going to remain.
Exactly. And I don't know what there's a fine line with everything. If you have too much killing, that's a problem. So, and that's what I think happened. Like if you look at the Gambino family today, or the Genoveses, big families, those families now largely are operating without killing people and stuff like that. But they came out of that Gotti Sammy era where, hey, if you break the rule, you're dead, and they killed too many people. But now when you have this thing of there's none of it, it's the same result. Killing too many people is the exact same result of killing nobody because there's no example set. So you have to have some if a person has no fear of a consequence, take your children. If they think that they can spill a Coca-Cola all over your carpet and you're never going to beat their ass, then they're going to keep spilling it. So you have no way of curbing cooperation with the government if you have no fear. You have no fear whatsoever. How do you have a meeting? How does a capo talk to a soldier and then go talk to a consigliere or underboss of someone? And like it has to happen to successfully run a family. People have to talk. So we have these low-level guys and then they get busted and they go, hey, I know this guy, I know that guy. It's a tough thing. It's one of those things where, and you know what? I was thinking about this too. Cosa Nostra and the 5 families, at least I'm speaking about, they're one of the only ones that have stopped killing. Look at all the other gangs, the Mexicans, black gangs, the Russians, the Jewish, like they're all still killing people. Look at Chicago, and there's unsolved murders every day. The gangs are killing people every day. So this argument, while there's too many cameras and there's too much of this, yes, there's a lot of cameras and stuff like that now, but that doesn't. A lot of other organized crime elements are still killing. They still kill their competition. They still kill rats and informants and things like that. Cosa Nostra is really the only organized crime group that has stopped it completely. It looks like I don't really see the last one I saw. I think was the Bonanos when they killed that guy in it was a couple hits in the Bonanno family. A guy got killed in a McDonald's driveway.
Yeah.
And there was another guy who tried an attempted hit, but the guy survived. But that was the first time I saw a hit, and that was a sloppy hit.
Yeah, I know.
It was amateur hour there.
Yeah, I know. Well, see, that leads me to the next question I want to ask you. We talked about if this will send a signal to other informants and rats that they really got to watch their back now, or they should stop thumbing their noses in the faces of the families and friends and the communities of where the people that they ratted on lived, and so the question is now, does this send a signal to organized crime groups, specifically Cosa Nostra? Does this let them know, hey, not only does this kind of make us look bad, but does this maybe set off a chain of events now? Are we going to start seeing more of this? Because it does project, I understand, like you said, I understand they have a moratorium on that, but it projects weakness, that they are the only organized crime group or crime group in general that's not willing to impose any kind of punishment on the people that betray them. Do you think this will send a signal to the organized crime groups like, hey, we got to start setting examples too?
I thought about that, and the difference with Cosa Nostra that makes I'll just say like gangs in Chicago or in Los Angeles a lot different. A lot of the gangs in like Philadelphia or Chicago and things like that, they're into the kind of crimes they're into are very hard knock crimes. The drug, they're moving drugs and stuff like that. So they're in a different type of criminality. They're in what Costa Nostra would look at as a more, you know, the kind of crime that's not respectable. Any drug dealer in the at a time, especially like in the 70s and 80s, if you were a drug dealer, even if you made a lot of money for Cosa Nostra, you weren't really looked at like you hid it from everyone and you didn't tell your boss. You just turned the money in. Your boss knew you were selling drugs, but he took the money and the rule of thumb was if you get caught, I have to kill you because we have a rule, against drugs. But the difference between some of these other gangs is they don't have the, like I talked about this week, that there was a Andrew Campos has this full-fledged operating construction company, and he helped to rehab this big project in the Bronx for Bill de Blasio. So the Gambino family is more, so when they say organized crime, Cosa Nostra still has some organized crime. They do stuff on stock markets, stock fraud, telecommunications. They're doing stuff with unions still, construction. They're doing, internet betting and pornography. So they have businesses set up where it requires them to have to have a EIN number, business accounts, checkbooks, accountants, lawyers, stuff like that. So that type of criminality, in my opinion, or that type of money earning schemes, I think Cosa Nostra should just do everything that they can do to just try to go legitimate, because they have the ability to do it. They have a lot of money and a lot of connections still. These other gangs, these other organized crime groups, if you want to call them organized, they're not really invested in like the legitimate world of business. So their reality is a little bit different. So because Cosa Nostra doesn't really, if you have the ability to run an entire construction company like Andrew Campos and Richard Martino and Vincent Fiore and guys like that, if you have that ability, then you're probably not a guy that wants to go out and shoot someone in the head. I mean, this guy was walking down the street. Vincent Fiore was walking down the street taking his daughter to the dentist or something when the FBI picked him up on wiretap. So these are guys that want to make money, and they're doing more legitimate type of schemes. Yeah. It's hard to attract a killer or shooters in that type of scheming. So I think how they're earning money, there isn't a lot of hard knocks that can survive in that. So they're losing their killers just by how they're evolving. They're losing their, so now they're bringing in, evolved, trained minds and stuff like that. People that have an idea. I have an idea on how we can. I mean, when the Philadelphia family recently got busted, Joey Merlino did a year or two recently, then got released. One of the things that they were busted in, they had this like prescription cream that they were having doctors prescribe. Yeah, I mean that's like legitimate. That's you're in the medication. I mean, in the medical field, that's a different type of person you're attracting into your family. So if you're dealing with doctors and union officials and construction contractors and labor officials, you're not around a lot of guys with guns who are killing. It's just so the supply chain of new people coming in, they're not violent people. They're schemers and racketeers. I think Cosa Nostra today has a lot of racketeers, which in my opinion, it's a good thing. Why you want to go to jail for 1 billion years?
Yeah, true, absolutely. And I mean the crime is going to change with the technology and everything else. Their crimes are going to get more sophisticated. I talked to Jeff Canarsie about this when he was on my show about, how a lot of the rackets aren't as much in the street anymore.
Mm-hmm.
It's more, they got involved in internet stuff, all kinds of shit like that.
Exactly.
Like you said, look in Philly, they got guys flipping houses and doing all kinds of shit.
Exactly.
Went legit. When does it get to the point where in order to get made, you have to have like at least a 4-year degree? It's not about killing anybody. Now you have to have a degree in business administration to get made.
But you know what? Cosa Nostra has the money to merge that way. You know, if you really think about it, you don't have to do criminal stuff to make money. It's just shared resources. You pool your resources together. So when you got guys who can say, hey, I have access to a great banker. Hey, I have access to a great drywall supplier, a cement supplier, things like that. You guys can all work together, set up businesses, make money, have a voting system, have a hierarchy system of associate, soldier, you know, capo, underboss, whatever. You can keep the same structure, have everything, but you just have it like where it's more legitimate. I think that was the concept in The Godfather. You know, he kept promising his wife, I'm going to be legitimate in 5 years or stuff like that. I think Paul Castellano wanted to do stuff like that. You know, he wanted to legitimize the family, was my understanding of Paul. He didn't want to be in these type of schemes that can put you away for a billion years. What's the point in getting rich just to die in prison? What's the point of making a bunch of money and building a big house if you're just going to die in prison anyway? You ain't living even in the house to be able to see it. You work you do all these things that can put you away for a billion years to build a big house that you'll never live in. You end up dying in a small prison cell. I think Cosa Nostra has the resources and the mindset to move into a more legitimate world if they don't want to kill. If you don't want to kill, they have no choice but to move to do more legitimate business schemes. You have, like right now, Andrew Campos is in jail. I think he's doing like 10 years. And all he did was what every business does. You know, he skimmed some profits off the top and he paid some people under the table. Have you ever worked under the table in your life? I know I have.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I just think that if they move to the more, if you don't want to kill your informants or have any fear attached to your informants, you have to go the more legitimate route.
The question is, though, I've been wondering that for years because they are starting to get into more and more legitimate things. But once your members or whatever are legitimate and they have these legitimate things going on, what is the need for Cosa Nostra? Why wouldn't everybody be a free agent? I mean, and do their own thing. What do you even need the organization for anymore? Because without the fear and stuff, without being able to put fear into people, what power does an organization even hold? I mean, they can't do anything like what they used to do. So what's the need anymore? If you're going to have an organization that's going legit, then what's the point of having an organization at all?
It's a good point. That's a good point. And I guess that's why they always had a balanced system where it was a mix of illegitimate and legitimate. And the people who made a lot were protected by the people who didn't know how to earn, but they could just go and force for the family or something. So you're right. You know, it's a tough situation that they're in. That's why it's no point in getting involved today because it's not a promising end. The funny thing is they used to like prepare people to go to jail. You know, when I looked at this big telecommunication scheme, this porn scheme that they had in the Gambino family, I think to myself, they had to know they're going to get busted at some point. I mean, you're charging people's credit cards all over the country and you haven't rendered any services. You have to think you're going to get caught. You know, so, but it made me think there was this construction scheme that when Sammy the Bull was just making his bones, they were going to put, they called him into this commission meeting and Paul asked him to, talk and they were going to put Sammy into this position and to help with some labor racketeering. And Sammy says, listen, we're all going to go to jail. I'll do it because you're the boss. You told me to do it, but we're all going to go to jail.
Yeah.
And Sammy tells Paul, like, you're the boss. I'll do whatever you want, but we're going to get caught in this. And Paul doesn't say, you know what, you're right, Sammy. We shouldn't do it. What Paul said is, damn, you're right. But you're too important to the family. So I'm going to put somebody else. It's too much money for us to turn down. So we'll put Joe in to do it. Joe's going to get caught eventually and go to jail. Okay, but we got to get the money. So that's what they used to do. Like, jail's going to happen. We're going to get busted at some point, but let's get the 200. I think about that with the Martino guy. He made like $750 million for the family, only had to pay back $9 million. And he's like, all right, I got to sit down for 8 years, 9 years in jail. And I'm going to make $750 million for the family. I gotta pay a fine for 10 million. I'll come out. I'm rich as hell. I could, like it is. So I don't know. I sometimes wonder if these guys just accept prison is going to be the fate in a certain situation. But I don't see no good answers anymore. To me, I don't see a good answer anymore because prosecutors, investigators, they make it so sweet for the informant now. Oftentimes, if you want to be an informant, it's a good paying job. They'll let you. They will give you a job. Who's the Ron Previty from Philly? You know who he is?
Yeah, of course.
Ron Previty was getting 10 bands a month.
I know.
Like
he
10,000 a month.
$1 million from the FBI in the time that he was an informant. Yeah.
He was getting, and they told him, and he could do all his own petty crimes still and keep his money. He just couldn't kill nobody. It's a pretty good offer. Hey, do whatever you want. Break all the laws you want to break. We're going to give you 10,000. Bring us a little information. We'll never indict you. Cosa Nostra just can't compete anymore with the government. The government is now making you a sweet deal.
Yeah. Yeah, Ron Previty was still robbing and stealing left and right from the casinos, the hotels, the guests, everything he was involved in, doing shit on the street, involved in bookmaking, everything else. They were paying him that money. I think they paid him $1 million over the time that he was an informant. And he wasn't even in trouble when they came to him.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, man, the government's the biggest mob of them all. These guys are so, I mean, it's really a shame that some of the things that they're allowed to do, but because most informants and stuff like it wasn't even that they got caught in a crime. The government just knew, we know he's connected with them, and they'll just bump into him at a diner and say, hey, I know you're connected with these guys. We've been watching all of you. I don't have anything on you, but hey, I'll give you 10,000 a month just to meet with me on the 1st and the 15th. Pass in whatever information that you got. And their offer is paying them 3, 4, 5 times what the mob's paying them.
Yep, and not only that, but they have protection. Then they feel like they have. They know that they, it's like in the case of Greg Scarpa Sr. Look what they did there. I mean, he was getting information from the feds on enemies and everything else. So, I mean, you're protected on both sides. You got the mob over here, you got the government over here. Talk about feeling invincible as a criminal in the street. You know what I mean? It's almost a desirable thing to become an informant in a case. It's like holy shit, I'm making money from both sides. I got protection from both sides. If I have an enemy in the mob, I can tell the feds. You know what I mean? It's unbelievable. It's crazy the shit they get away with. I can't wrap my mind around it sometimes.
Yo, that's so true. It's so true. Once you got the protection of the upper world and the underworld, no one's going to be able to beat you. You got both governments on your side, the criminal element and the prosecution element. What can happen to you? The people that have the responsibility of putting you away for life or promising you immunity. You really, truly do have a license to do anything. You can do anything you want to do. Break any law you want to break. All we want is your information. There has to be some kind of changes with this stuff, man. Like now, it's a profitable gig to be an informant. You can make some decent money. And you can make more money now. I mean, and that's why I hate this new world that we're in. You don't have to be married to anything to be convicted to anything. At least you want to say what you want to say about John Gotti, but at least he had a conviction. He was married to something. Cosa Nostra till I die. The boss is the boss, period. Doesn't matter. I'm going to live and I will die on the battlefield. That was how some of these guys thought. Neil Delacroix and some of these old time guys, man, I'll die for this thing. I can respect a person that has a belief in something and he dies for it. This new world that we live in, we don't have to be loyal to anything. It's all about betrayal and things like that. And what I hate about, informants and stuff like that, it's not about necessarily being an informant. It's about just that you have no conviction, no spine. You'll betray anything. Where does your morals lie? It doesn't, one of my favorite John Gotti quotes ever, and I've studied him my whole life. He says this, people think that if a guy brings you a basket, it makes him a good guy, but it makes him a motherfucker to me. That's what he said. He said, what makes you a good guy is if you're one of us, and I'm the best judge of that. And he talked about how there's people in the family who will let a cop in their house in a half a second, but won't let their own friends in and stuff like that. Like, and he would say stuff like when he said, if I can get 1 or 2 years without being interrupted, I'll put this thing together where they can never break it. That shit gives me chills, bro, because it was almost like he accepted his fate. Just give me 1 or 2, please. Just give me 2 years, then lock me up. Like he said, just give me 1 or 2 years without being interrupted. He wasn't saying don't ever interrupt me. Don't give me 20 years. Just give me 2 years so I can ensure that Cosa Nostra lives forever. I think he knew. His son says it in Shadows of My Father. I'm not sure if you ever read Junior's book. It's a great book if you haven't read it. But Junior talked about that, how his dad said, and his dad told him, like, I always knew that there would be a time that me and my family would be separated. Like he went into that life accepting the reality that jail, a lifetime in prison, or dying in the streets is a possibility. That's the end result for us. But at least he believed in something. These guys who are just opportunists that I'm going to save my save my skin by any means necessary. I don't know, man. I don't know how I feel about that.
Well, there's certainly no John Gotti's left. But this is the thing. Let me see. Mob Talk Radio, he was talking about Ron Previty. He said, and he got 25% of seized assets. All informants get 25% of seized assets under RICO law. That's sick. But so yes, he was making money hand over fist. But the thing is, too, like talking about all this, it used to be back in the day, when we had the first big mob informants and stuff. These guys were looking at life, the death penalty, multiple life sentences, things like that. And every now and then we had one. We had one. We had Phil Leonetti. We had Sammy the Bull. We had Jimmy the Weasel Fradiano. We had people like that. Now, they become rats because they were facing that kind of time. But now you see a lot of these guys. I mean, they're not going to do any fucking time. Like a lot of these guys are facing 5-10 years when they become cooperators. And that's the unbelievable part of it is like you said a little while ago, how, it's like back then they entered this knowing they were going to prison. They were almost prepared for it, and they were kind of, in a way, at least trained to know that, listen, this is going to happen. You're going to prison eventually. That's how people used to enter the criminal world, even on the street, even guys I knew. You know what I mean? When I started dealing drugs, I knew I was going to jail eventually. It was almost a relief when I finally went because I was at peace that, it finally happened. You know what I mean? Like I said, my first night in jail was the best sleep I ever got because I spent years wondering when it was going to come. You know what I mean? But these guys now, they're facing 10 years and they flip on every fucking buddy. And they have, it's not even a hard decision because look at everything that's offered to them now. Like you said, they get taken care of. If you read Gangsters and Goodfellas, Henry Hill's book, the way he was treated in witness protection, he was treated like a god, for Christ's sake. The U.S. Marshals, he was taken care of. He got whatever he wanted to eat, cars, houses. They got his horses there for him, for his kids, all kinds of shit. All right. So not only do they have that, okay, you want to enter witness protection, you have all these benefits. But now you don't even have to. These guys can testify. They can do whatever they want. Boom, they could be back in their own neighborhood without any repercussions. And now they have the added benefit of, hey, let's hop on YouTube, start a channel, and we could make fucking thousands of dollars a month, tens of thousands of dollars a month, telling our old war stories. So there's been so many things added, like benefits almost. It's almost desirable now to these guys to just do that. Why would you go to jail when you could become a celebrity and make a fucking fortune just telling your stories on YouTube, and you can go right back to your old neighborhood? You don't even have to hide anymore.
Bro, it's almost like when I got out of college, they make you do an internship. And part of but your internship, you don't get paid no money. It's just you got to do it for free, and you're busting your ass, but you're doing it because you're trying to set up a career for yourself. So you're working for free for the experience, and to say, look at me. So then once your internship's over, you can go into the work world and say, I have this experience. That's almost how it is now being in the mob. Like the mob is your internship to get something to talk about, to go get a YouTube channel and to start and to write a book and to do a film and do all this stuff. It's like if you're in the mob, you can't tell nobody. But once you're out, you can say, I was in the mob. It's like this great, it's like a business card. I was in the Bonanno family. Yo, bro, I'm not trying to like put nobody down, but because I like to be positive and just look at things objectively. But I think it's almost funny though. Like if you look at some people's like that were former members of like mob families, they'll have like an Instagram page or a social media page, and underneath their name, it'll say like former member of the XY family. Like it's like a marketing tool now. Like I was with, like it was crazy, bro. Like it's crazy. This new world we're in is crazy. I don't understand. But so now it's like it makes sense to tell. You're not going to get in trouble. Your family's going to still be your family. Your friends like you because you're a celebrity now, so they want to be around you. Like you can get opportunities and make money. Like it's like this. It's like a celebrity. Like to say I was with the Gambinos makes you a celebrity. To say I was with the Genoveses, the Bonanos, it makes you a celebrity. Absolutely. It makes people want to listen to you now.
Yeah, absolutely. It's the outlaw thing. It's like if Billy the Kid could come back to life and tell us all his stories. That's how these guys are seen. Is these are the stories everybody's been waiting to hear.
Yeah.
And, it's just, I don't know, man. I look at John A. Light, for example. This is the guy everybody runs to now. Every rat, when they get out of prison or whenever they're done doing whatever they have to do, they run to A-Light. You saw this a lot on his show because A-Light will get them in documentaries. He'll get, he's like the celebrity rat, basically. You know what I mean? Like A-Light has fucking managed to insert himself into so many documentaries, books, everything like that these guys now see somebody like him. And they're like, wow, we can do that. And we can get out of this life and we could do that instead. And then, you not only become a celebrity and all that shit, but you live a nice, decent life. You know that you can go back to your neighborhood. Like I said earlier, you have nothing to worry about. And A-Light, the reason they put him in a lot of this shit is, like you said, about putting anything you see, you'll see former Gambino, mafia hitman, some horse shit like that, even though it's not true. But A-Light looks and sounds the part. So even when these Hollywood producers or these documentarians, whatever, even though they know a lot of what he says is horseshit, if not all of it, they'll use him because his image, the way he talks, everything sells, everything fits. He's like straight out of Central Casting, even though he's not even Italian. You know what I mean? So I think A-Light is one of the biggest problems going, man. The fact that this guy has been able to gain the fame and success he has off of being a rat. And now he recruits all these other rats to start their own YouTube channels and to do their own things. And it's just, I don't get it, man. I don't get it.
To me, it's one thing if you just like, if you really want to turn your life around. Like, I was researching a friend of yours because I was considering doing something on him, but I just been researching him. And he has a fascinating story. But when I was researching Jimmy Calandra, and he talks about how Bensonhurst was, how it was this like mob breeding ground, how they would go after little kids and indoctrinate them and stuff like that, and make them. And I thought it was fascinating the way he broke it down. And he talked about how they would get you when you're very young and train you to like be loyal to them, go against your friends. Nobody is more important than us. The boss is the boss kind of stuff. Like, and by the time you get to be 18, 19, 20, you believe, like you are like brainwashed into believing this stuff. But if you're going to be an informant, at least turn your life around 360. So like when I look at him, I see him so much differently than I see people like A-Light. A-Light sells like baseball bats, says stuff like that. And even when you hear him talk, like I've heard Jimmy Calandra speak in a way that it almost makes you like emotional because you can tell the regret he has over his past. That's sincere to me. Like that, at least, who wants to just charter a new course in life. And I understand what he meant. I talked with Jeff Nadeau about this on his show about when you have when you see that these like terrorists, 13, 15 years old, and they take a bomb and walk towards a whole bunch of Americans and they blow themselves up. You ask yourself, what would make a person do that? Like what's in your you want to blow or someone fly a plane with themselves in the damn plane into a building. You have these like suicide bombers and stuff like that. But they really believe, bro, I'm going to heaven. I'm getting me 70 good virgins, tight ones. Like, they really believe, like they really believe this shit because someone got them when they were little kids.
Exact same thing. Yep.
And they programmed them. A lot of some of these mob guys, a lot of them came up at the kneecap. They came up as young kids. They didn't know. I forget what I was reading. Who I was just reading last night. I forget who it was. But somebody, I wish I remember what the name was, but they talked about how in their neighborhoods, it might have been Sammy, I don't know, but all you wanted to be was made. 8, 9, 10 years old, the kids walked around the neighborhood talking like, one day I'm going to be made. Like, it was a big thing. Like how people walk around and say, I want to be a rapper one day. I want to be a basketball player. I want to be a lawyer or a doctor. And they're 10. And they'll say, I'm going to the NFL one day. I'm going to be the next Tom Brady. 10-year-old kids walked around saying, I'm going to be the next Carlo Gambino, the next Albert Anastasia. They wanted, that's all, that life was really something to people at a time. So it's hard for me as an analyst to be overly critical on some informants because what do you do when, my God, if you study really what happened to Jimmy Calandra's crew, it's sad what happened to them. Friends killing friends, people turning, and I understand what he's saying. If I look at his story and really watch it and really read what he's saying, it's like, wow, I understand, bro. This is your best friend, a guy you love so much, and this person did this to him, and you come up as a little kid and people telling you stuff and you start believing it, and then and he said, one day I realized this is indoctrination. Like this isn't right. That's different to me. He tried to turn his life around, tries to live a straight edge life. Some of these other guys seem like they just want to now be a YouTuber or a celebrity gangster, not a changed person.
Exactly. I did a show on this based on some of the stuff Jimmy told us about that. I did a show about the Mafia farm teams, you know what I mean? And in places like Bensonhurst, Howard Beach, all over New York. And everywhere, everywhere where this takes place, how they catch them at a young age, like with Jimmy and his crew. These kids are raised knowing that that's what they want to be. These are the men they look up to. And then they meet these guys who, teach them the life and teach them this is the way to be. And this is how you show respect to people and all these other things. This is how you handle situations. And they're pretty much indoctrinated and they're raised right into it. I talked about all the different crews, the Rampers, the Fulton Rockaway boys, the Ozone Park boys, Bath Avenue crew, the Giannini crew, the New Springville boys. They all these families had them. The Columbos, Lucchese's, Gambinos, Banana, everybody. And that's where they got them. They didn't recruit people they met on the street. They had already recruited these kids when they were little. Yeah. They were just waiting for them to grow and be able to be capable of certain things. But Jimmy, I talk to Jimmy regularly. He's a friend of mine.
But bro, he does really seem like, he has so much regret over his past. Like,
yes, that's the thing that makes me see Jimmy differently. And trust me, it's a lot of people because a lot of these guys, that I talk to that, hate rats and this and that. A lot of them have told me off YouTube, listen, I really have no problem with Jimmy, but I can't say that because he cooperated. You know what I mean? Stuff like that. People see Jimmy differently because, like you said, he turned his life around completely. This is a good dude now. He lives a respectable life. He's a single father who raises 2 little girls on his
Yeah,
own. He
yeah.
works, a couple of jobs. He takes care of what he needs to in life. And although he's on YouTube, he doesn't come on YouTube like A-Light, with the suits and the image and brag about all the people he killed and this and that and make up stories. Jimmy comes out and tells you the exact truth, the way it was. He doesn't add, he doesn't take away. And he expresses remorse. And he's honestly here, and you hear it in a lot of his videos, to tell people, don't do this. Don't enter the life. He's not like A-Light who'll stand up in a classroom just so he has another audience to brag about his big criminal career to. Because A-Light, he could, even when he says it's for the kids, it's just an undercover way of.
Bro, you don't sell baseball bats to kids and say I baseball batted 100 guys. Like, I try to be like a really objective guy. Like, I try to see. I feel like just with me looking at A-Light, I feel like he's torn between who he wants to be and who he and who he, like, the life he's in now and the life he used to be in. There's a big difference between telling your story and gloating. They're very different. Yeah. Jimmy Calandra just tells his story. A-Light, to me, seems more like he's gloating, like he wants to brag about really horrible things. When I watch this, it's really hard for me to take an opinion against anybody that's negative. I always try to see the silver lining in anything. But I tell you, sometimes I struggle with A-Light because I watched this documentary where he's bragging almost. He's talking about how he took his son. His son went on his first hit when he was 7 years old.
Oh,
so he was leaving. And I'm sitting there, but if you look in his face when he's talking, and I'm a big fan of Robert Greene, this guy that published the 48 Laws of Power. I'm a big fan of his. I'm writing a book right now with the same guy that published that book. And one of the things Robert Greene talks about is, if you really want to see, people don't tell you what they believe through their mouth. It's body language. It's like smirks, it's reactions, it's the things that you're not saying that's telling you what you're saying. But when you look at him if you look in his face, when he talks about taking his son on a hit, his son went and got a water pistol, a water gun, and he said, "Daddy, I want to come with you," or something. And he's telling this story. But look at his face. He's almost like he thinks it's like his face is telling you he's bragging about this in a way. That was disgusting to me. That was disgusting. You should be so ashamed of that. Your face should show what kind of bro. I'm a father. Got a 19-year-old daughter. She's my heartbeat. Love her more than anything in the world. That would hurt me so bad, I wouldn't even be able to tell the story.
I know.
I wouldn't even be able to. That's one of those things. I just wouldn't be able to tell nobody. I would go to my God with it, and I would pray every night to ask for forgiveness, to say, I would hope my daughter forgot about it. I certainly wouldn't sit in the same room with her and talk about it. I would hope she just forgot about it. So when I heard him do that, that's what changed my road with him. And again, I'm a guy that tries to see the silver lining in everything. But when I saw that, I said, man, that's kind of disgusting. That you think that's funny. You took your son on a murder, and you can talk about it on screen and think that you're helping kids, but you're not helping. But and that it was that, and then the baseball bat thing. The baseball bat thing just threw me off because all I ever heard him say was how many guys he baseball batted. But you're selling autographs, baseball bats now, but you're trying to save kids. It's really strange to me.
He said it's because he played baseball. I said, well, then why don't you just sell baseballs? The simple answer, right? Sell fucking baseballs,
bro.
Bats because the violent past,
bro. If you ask anybody who knows John A-Light, and you ask them, tell me one thing about John A-Light. Everybody you ask is going to say, He baseball batted 100 guys. That's all he ever says, all the time. He talks about the baseball bat, baseball batting. I've been baseball batted, blah blah blah. So when hey, if it's he also boxed. Why don't you sell boxing gloves? I don't know. I didn't know he played baseball. I knew he boxed, but hey, whatever. Hey, we all live our own life. It is what it is. But I don't think that's the big difference I seen between Jimmy Calandra and A-Light. Calandra looks like he truly has regrets over his past, and he wants to turn away from them, and he wants to help people. If you're going to turn away from that life, and that's the route that you go, you're saving people, you're doing the right thing. That's respectable to me. That's a respectable thing. But you can see it in his face when he talks. Yo, body language. I heard this quote before that 85% of communication is nonverbal. You can tell by a person's way of expression, the body language, everything. You can tell if they're speaking with sincerity. Yeah. That's why I like you so much. There's nothing fake about you on your channel, bro. But you can tell that you're real. You hear A-Light talk, you can tell that he's real. But if I'm being honest, when you hear A-Light talk, he sounds like a gangster. He sounds like a guy who wants to be in the street still. He doesn't sound like someone who we're like, wow, he really turned it around. He really wants to live a different life. He does not come across that way.
Well, he still addresses himself as a gangster. He said it in documentaries and shit. I'm a gangster. Now, I want to go back over a couple of things you said because it was very important to me, a lot of the stuff you were talking about. The hardest thing I ever did, and anybody goes back and watches the video, I think I titled it like self-destruction, I'm a screw up, something like that. The hardest thing I ever did out of like 140 of these videos I've made is to tell about how my crimes and my life as a criminal affected my relationship with my daughter. And it was the hardest thing I ever told. I was almost in tears telling it. And because it's the biggest sadness in my life till this day is that I did damage to my relationship with her because of the things I was involved in. You know what I mean? And like you said, I wish I could close my eyes and make it all go away. I wish I could make her forget somehow, but it was, fortunately she was older, when this stuff took place. But so, yeah, that's something when I talk to her and we have, we talk for hours at a time on the phone and stuff. I don't bring up, I don't discuss anymore because I know some of it was traumatizing to her and she doesn't want to think about it. You know what I'm saying? So I don't, I would never. But what that brings me to is that particular scene. We have that in common because that fucking made me sick when he told that story. That is the most disgusting thing I've ever seen him do, and he's done a lot of disgusting shit. The look of pride and the like how he was bragging about how he had a smirk on his face. He was full on smiling at some points, telling the story about how he took a 7-year-old on a hit. And he actually he says that till this day he laughs and jokes with his son about you went on your first hit at 7 years old. You know how fucking twisted. You can't even tell me you love your child if you did that and then still till this day brag about it. You don't even love your own child. And the funny part is, chances are it was bullshit anyway, because in that scene in the documentary, I think it was the Trevor McDonald one.
Yes, it was.
Trevor McDonald looked at his son and said, "Do you remember that?" And his son was like,
"No." He said, "No."
You know what I mean? But that goes to show.
But yo, that's what makes it worse. His son never remembered it, but you want to reinforce it in his mind. Yo, to me, bro, as a father, it's one thing if you don't have kids, you can't really relate. Yo, my daughter is my heartbeat, bro. Like, I can't even. Yo, I never even did anything. My kid went off to college recently, and now that she's not home anymore, I think about like times I had to go to night class, or me and my friends went out to just to have a beer and watch a game, and I wasn't home, and that bothers me. It bothers me that I'm thinking, damn, I should have just stayed home and play Barbies with her. Bro, I would be in therapy. Bro, I wouldn't be on the phone right now. I'd be in therapy, bro, if I did something like take my daughter on to go kill somebody. And my biggest hope would be, damn, she was so young, I hope she forgets. The son said, I don't remember that. Why would you drill that into his mind? And he said, I always tell him. That's what he said. I always tell him that he went on his first hit at 7. Yo, that's sociopath type of stuff. It really is. It's scary type of stuff. But to say that I'm here to help children, that's the part if you want to be that way, no problem. But don't take the position that I'm trying to help children, because you're not. You ain't trying to help kids by telling that story.
He's not even trying to help his own.
No, he's not. You're right.
He's trying to teach his kid how cool it was to go on a hit at 7 years old. But here's the flip side to that we all know that story was most likely bullshit. We know that. And that brings me to the flip side, which is equally as sick. If you made this story up, and obviously if you made it up, you did it so you could brag about it and talk all about it in front of your son in this documentary, that makes you equally as much of a scumbag, because that tells me that not only do you think it's cool and something to brag about that you would bring your 7-year-old son in a hit, but you'll brag about it right in front of him on a documentary. You'll make up a story knowing the kid don't remember it because it never happened. It goes to show just how twisted that fucking animal of a human being is, John Alite. He's a sick man. He's
proud of he takes pride in his past. He's not, Jimmy Calandra is ashamed of his past.
Yep.
And it's very, very different things. I don't understand it, but it is what it is. It's just, but I heard this quote before that some people sound smart to somebody dumb. That's how I look at the whole situation. Like you can fool everybody but a bright mind. You don't sit there and talk the way you're talking about. I mean, to be honest, you don't have to go into these details that he goes into, like where you list everybody's name. Like, do you even care about these families? Like, when I watched that Vlad interview, I couldn't even believe how he lifted all these people's names like that. Like, as if, because there's people's connected to each of those names, mothers, fathers, children, loved ones that have to hear this, that if you're in pain, I mean, bro, I have shames. I'm being honest. Like, I got things that, I'm scarred about, that I go, that I don't like about my past, things I wish that I could have done differently. And, things that we're ashamed of, they're very hard to reveal. Like what you just said about your daughter, that's vulnerability. That's you showing that you're when you say like this show in a way is like therapy for you. It's like a way that you can, sometimes you feel like you shouldn't express certain things, but hey, you're just going to keep it honest. But that's real. Like that's you showing like vulnerability. That's you being real. That's you putting out the truth. But you ain't, like what you just said about your daughter. It's not like, I could hear it in your voice. There's pain attached to it. When you hear him talk about his past, it doesn't sound like he's ashamed or in pain of it. It sounds like he's bragging.
Yeah.
So, and I know that, shame, things in our past are hard to say. It's hard to express the things that we're ashamed of. It can be very hard. It can take a lot of therapy and stuff like that to express the things that we're ashamed of. If you can easily say stuff, it's because you're proud of it. We easily share what we're proud of. It's hard to share what we're ashamed of. So nothing seems hard about what Alite's saying, because it would seem like to me there's some pride attached to it. I wouldn't be proud and be shooting people and killing people and doing stuff like that. I wouldn't be proud. It can be in my past. I can move on from it, but I wouldn't want to be talking about it all the time. My uncle was in Vietnam. He fought front lines in Vietnam. I'm not sure if you ever met any former people who were in the military who served in war. They won't talk about what happened on the battlefield, bro.
Oh, I know.
A lot of them who killed a lot of people, did a lot of shit. They won't talk to their own kids. Me and my uncle go out and play golf. He fought front line in the Vietnam War. He will not talk about what happened. If you bring it up, he goes, I don't want to talk about that. Because it's painful to him, what he had to experience and see. The people who are bragging and talking all the time, they have a pride attached to it.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely, man. And we see that with someone like A-Light. It's I don't know.
Bro, I just want to tell you live because I know I talked to you on the phone, but bro, I'm so proud of you, man. Like, yo, you are good. Like, yo, I can tell even listening to your show, yo, like you're a good-hearted human being. Like you love your wife, you love your family. All you want to do is just, like I'm just want you to know, bro. I'm so proud of you. Everything that you're doing. I hope you always do what you're doing. Don't let people distract you. Like, I could tell the first show I watched when you had a whole different background back then.
Yeah.
Your very first show, but I could tell that from the one thing about you that I like is that you're always you, and you're consistent. You seem like from your first show until right now, I always saw the same guy on the screen. I never saw like a pivot or a switch. You're always you. Like, and I got so much respect for you and what you're doing. I got so much respect for your show. I got so much respect for the transparency that you're able to live your life in. Like everything you're doing is so great. I'm so proud of you. I'm glad that I met you. I'm glad that we're friends. I consider you my friend. I hope we can get together and have dinner sometime, because we ain't that far from each other, I don't think. So, but yo, I'm sincerely mean that, bro. I sincerely, truly mean that. I'm super proud of watching your show. Every time I see you on, I tap in just to hear you. You're building a great brand for yourself, and the best thing about you is you don't sell the mob on your channel. You're the Fat Bald Sicilian channel. Like you are your own person, your own personality. People watch you because of your honesty and your truth. And you wear that shit, bro, good and bad. Don't matter what's going on. You live in the greatest thing about you is that, I heard this old quote. It said, to thyself be true. It said, this among all things, to thyself be true. And bro, you live your life in a complete state of truth. That's a hard thing to do. A lot of us are running from ourselves, or running because we don't like our reality. We all live in, this fake world and social media, and we're all trying to be what we're not. What I respect most about you is that you are a real person, bro. Like your truth comes out over the screen, and I got a lot of respect for you. I just really want you to know that.
Well, thank you, man. I love hearing that. You've told me that before. You've lifted me up on some bad days, telling me that. I appreciate it. I think the first time we talked, I had my mom at the doctor getting tested for COVID and all that. I always appreciate that from you, man. I think the same of you, man. I think the world of you. I think you're a great guy. Love your channel. I promote it whenever I can. If any of the moderators want to drop RJ's link to Black Handprint Mafia, that would be great. And yeah,
Yo,
man,
bro, I mean it though, bro. Anything I'm only 10, 15 minutes away. You ever need anything, bro? I don't care if you need help moving the couch from upstairs to downstairs, bro. I'll come help you out. Like I really think highly of you as a human being, not just about your show or just about the way you carry yourself. You conduct yourself as a gentleman. Like, you remind me of myself in a way, because if it's time for war, you're ready to go. It's like, fuck it, anything for my family. But at the same time, I can tell that you're a gentle, that you're a gentleman. You're a soft-hearted guy. And you love and you feel deeply. And that's what to me, that's what a real man is: a compassionate, loving, sensitive person that's ready to go kill if he has to. And that's what I see in you. So I got tremendous amounts of respect for you. And I'm not just saying that just talking on camera. I truly, in my heart, I truly believe that.
I appreciate it, man. You know that. It means the world to me to hear that from somebody like you, because I have a lot of respect for you. And like I said to you in a text recently, take advantage of this opportunity because you're great at what you do. You got the personality for it. You're very intelligent, educated. And I love your channel. I think everybody should subscribe to Black Handprint Mafia. And the same to you, man. If you ever need anything I could do to help, I'm there for you. And we're going to get together for sure.
Yeah, let's get together, have dinner or something. I'll buy you dinner, bro.
Yeah, definitely. The only thing before you go, and thank you for joining me, because you've given me like over an hour. I think I love having you on. I've been wanting to have you on. But a couple of questions before you go. One quick one: are you going to watch Paid in Full today?
Yeah, you know what? That's so funny. Bro, I literally just put a post on my channel talking about Paid in Full, and I said, I'm about to put this movie on right now. And then my alert popped up that you were going to talk about it. So I'm watching your show, and I shot you a text. And I'm like, so
Yeah,
yes, I'll be hanging up with you and putting on Paid in Full. Absolutely.
that's awesome.
That's funny.
And my other question is, Miss Can't Be Wrong said, go subscribe to Black Handprint Mafia. Yes, please do so. My other question is this, and I honestly think some people aren't going to like this question, but I do think it needs to be addressed. Now, obviously, there are some differences between a mob informant and a mafia, or I'm sorry, a mob informant and somebody like Alpo Martinez, who was obviously a drug dealer and a street guy. He wasn't part of a larger organization. But what do you think about the disparity in, say, sentencing? When you have like a Sammy the Bull or somebody, this was coming, right? Somebody like a Sammy the Bull who kills 19 people, gets 5 years, and goes on to live his life, versus Alpo Martinez, who was involved in 14 murders, some committed himself, and got 35 years when he became an informant and told on Wayne Silk Perry. What do you think? What do you think about the disparity with that? It's
This is always, I don't always I think when you can. It's a tough question. That
I know, man. I know. I didn't want to put you on the spot.
I don't want to because I never want to offend people. I always try to be a person that makes all people feel welcome. But the truth of the matter is, I think we live in a country that there has been a time where there were segments of the population that were treated differently than other parts of the population. Yeah. So throughout the 60s, from the 60s all the way into the 80s, into the 80s, you had a regulatory and a criminal justice system that was one way towards one type of people. And if you go way back to the 1900s all the way to the 40s, Italians were kind of treated the exact same way. So I think as our country, one of the big things that I noticed, I'll use this as my example. Right now, we have a lot of people coming over from the southern border, I believe, the Mexican border, and I watch the mainstream media, and a lot of what the national media says about Mexican immigrants coming over to this country is that I hear it on TV all the time. They have COVID, they have the disease, they're criminals, they're uneducated, they're going to live off of our system, they're this and they're that. If you go back and you look at what every single thing that was said about the Sicilians when they came over in 1900, literally verbatim, the exact same thing. Same thing. They were criminals. They were criminals. They were uneducated. They were stealing American jobs. There was a major labor shortage in the 1900s, which is what brought a lot of them over to have jobs and stuff like that. Anytime we don't want someone in this country, we put bad labels on them. Is there a criminal element coming over the southern border, MS-13, stuff like that? Absolutely. Is it the predominant? No, it's probably 1 or 2%, the same as over 4 million people came over from Italy, from Sicily. Never at any point in this country has the government said there was more than 4,000 people in the mafia, organized crime figures in this country. So you got 4 million that come over, but they made Italians and Sicilians, they branded all of them as being gangsters, being criminals, being bad people. 99% of the Italian immigration wave into this country were good, hardworking people that wanted to work, make money, put their families in better opportunities, put their kids into school, do things like that. But the media branded them as being these bad people. So you had the country, by and large, didn't treat Italian immigrants well. It was hard for them in school. The principals weren't good. The teachers weren't good to them. Everywhere they went, they were looked at like, watch those people because they're bad. But it wasn't the case. They were misbranded. It happens in this country a lot when we have people coming over that we don't like. It's this marketing thing where people get tagged as being this thing that they're not. Most people, forget about the mob, forget about anybody. The average person only wants to take care of their family, take care of the people that they love. I truly, truly believe that. If you walk past 10 people, 7 or 8 of those people, I don't care where you're at in the world, 7 or 8 of those people, they want to go home to their husbands and their wives and their kids. They want to have a loaf of bread on the table and some soup, and they want to be to lock their door at night without fear that someone's going to come in and hurt who they love. That's the average person. Any ethnic group, anywhere in the world. I believe that's the average person. We want love and we want family, friendship, companionship. Most people are not bad people. So the disparity, so I think some of those unfair sentencing guidelines came from that reality that these are not people that we care a lot about.
Well, yeah, the crack laws, the sentencing disparity, 100 to 1.
Yeah.
You get caught with 1 gram of crack, you get caught, or you get sentenced the same as a guy who got caught with 100 grams of powder. The sentence,
Exactly.
and obviously the crack was they looked at it as a drug more prevalent in the African American community, sold by African Americans.
Hey, bro, if my phone cuts off on you, it literally says 1%. So I didn't hang up on you, but go ahead.
All right. Well, in that case, I'll let you go. But you see what
No,
I'm getting at.
but hey, you are right. Black Americans traditionally used hard cocaine because it was cheaper than buy, and they were poor and they didn't have much money. So Freeway Ricky Ross in Los Angeles figured out a way to make soft cocaine into a harder substance and sell it at a cheaper price, but it was just as potent. So everybody used cocaine, blacks and white people. The only thing that was different is the white population had more money to afford the soft stuff. Crack, the hard stuff was sold cheaper, and black people didn't have much money, so they.
Oh shit! I think I lost them. Ain't that a bitch? This was going great. I didn't even get to thank him really for being on, but yeah, what I was getting at was basically you got a guy like Wayne Silk Perry, killing people left and right, hitman, enforcer, a notorious gangster on the streets of DC. Alpo tells on him, testifies, becomes a rat, whatever. He gets 35 years in prison on his deal as a witness, on his cooperation deal. Whereas, different gangsters in different communities that we know of who have also testified against hitmen, notorious, gangsters, enforcers, whatever you want to call them, have gotten, cooperation deals where they've gotten multiple murders, in one case 19 murders, and they get 5 years in their cooperation deal. So obviously these things are different, and I'm not going to not point them out just because it might bother certain people. So I want to thank, I hope RJ is able to watch right now. I wish he'd even pop back on just so I could say goodbye and thank him for being on here. But if nothing else, I'll call him. So I want to say, thank you to him. It was great having him on. I think RJ is a great guy. I got all the respect in the world for him. He's educated. Thank you, Miss Can't Be Wrong. He's obviously very intelligent. He's mob historian, wealth of knowledge about the mafia. And yeah, I know the differences. I understand why. I'm just saying you can't not notice, that there's a huge difference in how that works. But obviously, like somebody like Sammy the Bull was testifying against the biggest gangster in the country at the time, and an organization in itself. I know that. I understand the simple differences. But there's still something to be said for that disparity. But yeah, RJ is a great dude. Oh, send me a link. All right, he'll get back on real quick. There you go, buddy. Yeah, that's good. I'm glad he's coming back on for a minute. But listen, again, like I say about my show, I could start it about, one thing, or I could start it without that much of a plan. Something good will happen and it turns into a better show. This is a prime example. I've been wanting to have RJ on for a long time. he's finally made it on. I think he'll be coming back on here. And we got to have this whole discussion about not just Alpo Martinez, but about the mob and a lot of different things concerning the mob and street stuff and the legal system and everything else. So I really enjoyed this show. Thank you, FBS, for being fair about how the justice system in that respect isn't fair. Oh, absolutely. Pretty Monita, New York Queen. I'll be the first one to admit it. The crack laws alone are proof. Not only that, there's a lot of other things that are proof of that depending on the race of the person or the community, everything is different without a doubt. There's a lot of other things. There you go, buddy. You got YouTube on. Depending on the race of the person.
No.
Everything is different without a doubt. There's a lot of other things. There you go, buddy. You got YouTube on. Depending on the race of the person. Let me let him get ready for a second.
You hear me?
There you are. Yeah.
All right. Sorry, bro. I didn't mean to hang. I'm my phone. I'm on my laptop now, but I had my phone in my hand that whole time.
Oh, it's all good.
But to finish my answer, I think that all people are better off together, connected as one people. I never like to make things about like a race thing, because I don't think like that. I think we're all one, human race, and we're better off if we just see people as people. But the truth of the matter is, I don't know that our government's always the most fair towards what they don't want here, what they see as a threat to their system. So, but yes, you were right. The unfair sentencing guidelines, the unfair law systems and stuff like that. It was at the time, it was to curb a problem that they saw. They did it to they did it to many different types of people. It wasn't just people like Alpo. It was all kind of different people that these kind of things happen to. And I talked about this in my show before, that my personal opinion, why I study and love Cosa Nostra so much and research it so much, is I think that they created the model of how any oppressed ethnic group can save themselves. Yeah. Cosa Nostra banded together. They created their own banking systems. They created their own law systems. They created their own policing force. They took care of the elderly. They took care of the poor. They created a self-governed society. And for 50, 60 years to come, if you needed to, you got to understand, when the Sicilians came over, they had nothing. Sicily had food shortages, couldn't go see a doctor. There was no medical systems. There was poor education system. If you wanted a job, it was back-breaking, labor-intensive jobs. It was tough over there. So when they came over here, they didn't have anything to come with. So how do you get a house? You don't have no credit. You have no money. You have nowhere to go get a loan from. Who are you going to go? You can't go to a bank and say, "Can I borrow $50,000 for a mortgage loan to buy a house?" You were essentially had no existence in this country. You had no validity in this country. That's what Cosa Nostra provided to its people. We'll loan you the money for the house. We'll loan you the money for a car. We'll give you a credit at the local supermarket to go buy, fruit and vegetables and stuff like that. They took care of their own people. They didn't allow any drugs being sold in their community. It was safe. A great story that came from Sammy that I really love was when he talked about how a husband whose wife was leaving work, the husband would tell the wife, walk down the side of the street that the mob guys are at. Yeah. Walk past the social clubs, because they're not going to whistle at you, bother you, anything. And if someone does, they will check those. They took care of their people. They didn't depend on the government, on a subsidy, on welfare, nothing. They took care of their community. And I think that Cosa Nostra is a model. If you are an oppressed ethnic group, look at what Cosa Nostra did. That's how you save yourself, you save your community, you save your people.
No, I agree 100% without a doubt. It was definitely a good model. And I don't like to get into, the subject of politics, race, anything like that. The reason I had to acknowledge that, the thing about, the disparity in what we see as far as informants and stuff is, if you were to ask me, or I'll tell you this, well, I won't ask you. I won't put you on the spot. But if I were to be asked the question, hey, do you think it would have been different if, say, Joseph Testa or Anthony Center were to inform against Roy DeMeo and testify against him? Do I think they would have walked away with 5 years or 35 years? I would say most likely 5 years. So you see what I'm saying? That's what
I hear you. I know. It was they a lot of those communities were eliminating themselves. They knew that there were hits out on people. They knew that certain people were going to be killed, and they let it happen. They let these communities destroy themselves. And, so, I mean, they knew who Alpo was long before Alpo got arrested.
Mm-hmm.
But it was fixing the problem that they couldn't solve.
Yeah.
So, yeah. But, yo, thank you for inviting me on. I didn't expect all of this. I thought we'd be on talking about Alpo, but we got a lot of nice things addressed. It was a great conversation. Again, I appreciate you, bro, more than I can express in words. I think you're a gentleman. I think you're a good guy. And I'm always cheering for you, bro. I'm always rooting for you.
I appreciate it, man. And same to you. You know that we've talked several times on the phone and stuff. And I'm sure we'll talk again soon, but I got all the respect in the world for you, and I hope you all the success, man. I hope you blow right by me with subscribers, and I'll be a guest on your show at one point too. I hope. And I hope you're back on here at some point.
Thank you, bro. I truly appreciate it, truly, man. And give your best to my to your family, and we'll talk again. I'll call you tomorrow or something.
All right, sounds good.
All right.
Yep.
Thank you again for the invite. I really appreciate it. Keep doing what you're doing, man.
Of course, you too, man. I'll talk to you soon.
Sounds good, bro.
All right, thanks, RJ.
All right, yep.
He's a good dude, man. Let's see. Thank you. See, that was a great show, and I appreciate RJ for it. And I know it kind of spiraled from Alpo into the mob thing and stuff, but that's what happens sometimes. This is basically a mob channel. But I honestly think that what happened this morning, it's going to cause a lot of people to think, without a doubt. Was it surprising that Alpo got killed, considering who he was and he was hanging out in Harlem? Absolutely not. But is it a shock these days to see an informant get killed? It absolutely is. Without a doubt, there's no denying that. That's why I say, was I shocked that he got killed? Not necessarily, but the shock was still there that anybody who was an informant in this day and age was killed. Things are different. People conduct themselves differently when they're not part of a larger organization. Like Mob Talk Radio said, with the mob, it's different because there's rules and there's a commission and all that says, no, we're not killing anybody right now. Whereas the guys on the street in Harlem, they're not part of a larger organization for the most part. They're just street guys who play by their own fucking rules and aren't going to put up with certain shit. And that's why something like this happened with Alpo. Maybe Alpo looked at the A-lights of the world and the people like that who get to walk the street in their own neighborhoods after becoming informants and think, hey, I can do the same thing they're doing. Obviously, he was wrong. In Harlem, they were not fucking around. And like I said, at 3:00 this morning on 147th Street on the corner near Frederick Douglass, Alpo was killed. And that's that. There's going to be a lot of stories about this today on YouTube, on TV. I'm sure we're just going to see more and more documentaries. The legend of Alpo, Rich Porter, and AZ is never going to die. The legend of Alpo himself is never going to die. The movie, they were immortalized in the movie Paid in Full and countless other documentaries and things like that. So their story is an interesting one. I think everybody should check it out. These guys were no joke, man. They were making tons of money. They were killers. And especially Alpo. So I suggest everybody watches Paid in Full today. If you haven't seen it, especially, it really is a fantastic movie. And I thank RJ for coming on to talk about all this stuff. Good show. The spiraling off was the best part of the show. Thanks, sis. Well, that's what always happens, especially with like me and RJ, where I think our main interest is in, the mafia, that type of organized crime. So I didn't think you did, TT the Norwegian. What happened? Paid in Full. Yes, that's the name of the movie. No disrespect. Why? What happened? What did I miss? What's that about? Wait a minute. Let me see what TT Norwegian was saying. It doesn't matter. I can't get to it. But what's Paid in Full? Where's the movie playing? Paid in Full is the story of these three guys behind me. That's actually a picture from the movie. That's not the real guys. The real guys are right here. Let me get to them. That's the real Alpo, Rich Porter, and AZ. They were legendary drug dealers in Harlem in the 80s. Alpo branched off to DC, took over there, killed a lot of people, had a lot of people killed, eventually became an informant. He was facing the death penalty. When he became an informant, he wound up with 35 years. He served 24 of that, part of it in ADX Supermax in Florence, Colorado. He got out in 2015, started showing up back in the scene, recently back in Harlem, and was killed at 3 a.m. this morning. But Paid in Full is a fantastic movie with Mekhi Phifer, Wood Harris, and Cameron. And you can find it. I wouldn't be surprised if it's on Netflix right now. Let's see. I'll tell you exactly where you guys can find it. So you can watch it today if you'd like. I have a scene from it that I wanted to play. I don't know if I should play it. All right, it's not on Netflix. Let me check. Amazon Prime, if you have to pay for it or if it's free. Okay, you can buy it. I don't know if you can watch it. I don't know if you can rent it on there. This is becoming more difficult than I imagined. Wait a minute, we'll find it. I personally own the movie. It's one of my favorite movies. It's one of those movies that if you were ever a drug dealer, it's like Scarface. You gotta watch it. I'm not sure. You'd have to search around. I thought usually it's on Netflix a lot, but it's not on there right now. Paid in Full. I'm gonna do this for you guys. Where can I watch Paid in Full?
Paid in Full is a 2002 movie directed by Charles Stone III, starring Wood Harris, Mekhi Phifer, and Cameron.
Okay, so you can watch it. Amazon Prime has it for $2.99. Vudu has it for $2.99. Google Play Movies and TV $2.99. YouTube $2.99, or Pluto TV. It's free, so you can watch it on any of those places. And you know what? A scene from the movie. It's a very good portrayal of what the crack epidemic in New York was like in the 80s. So I suggest everybody goes and watches it, especially on a day like today where you might want to get a better idea of who he was a legendary gangster, and he was killed at 3 a.m. this morning. I don't know, the last time we saw it was maybe Frank Cali was the last gangster that was killed. But Frank Kelly was no rat. Alpo Martinez was. So he was killed for a different reason. And it is kind of a, it's a day that'll go down in history to some extent because of who Alpo was and the fact that he was killed. He was a rat and he was killed. Paid in Full is on Netflix in the UK. Okay. Didn't Preacher kidnap and kill his brother? I'm not sure if it was Preacher, but it was that was Rich Porter's brother, right? I'm not sure. Yeah, some crazy kid killed Frank Kelly, exactly. Let me see something. Yeah, Rich Porter's brother Donnell was kidnapped and killed by their maternal uncle and his gang, who were known as the Preacher's Crew. Yeah. That's part of the movie. It's a very sad story, guys. It's it ended badly for everybody. The only one that really made it out, and he went through a lot of shit too, was AZ Faison. But check it out, guys. Check out the movie. Thank you for being here for this video. I love you guys. I want to thank Thomas Lochner for his Cash App, and my Cash App link is in the description. If you guys enjoy my content and want to contribute to the channel, all donations are appreciated. Thank you for being here. Thank you, RJ Roger from Black Handprint Mafia. I hope everybody goes and subscribes to his channel. Happy Halloween to everybody. Have a great day. I don't know if I'll be back tonight. I might. If not, I'll see you guys tomorrow. So until next time, I love you all. Salute.